Hey guys, my name is Michaela. If you are new to this channel, which I assume most people are since I just started it, I am a trans femme person living in New York City. I started transitioning about 4 years ago, and I started hormones about a year ago. And the reason I wanted to make a channel is because I feel I've developed a lot of experience over the last couple of years, having gone from one gender to the other, both in presentation and socially, requesting different pronouns and, attempting to shift other people's perception of my gender. And in doing so, I think I learned a lot, or I am still learning for sure, but I've learned a lot that I want to be able to give back to the community. So having said that, I would love if you could like this video, feel free to comment on this video, and also subscribe to my channel. The video that I want to make today is about aging, which I know can be a touchy topic in our image-obsessed culture, and it could be even more so of a touchy topic when it comes to the trans and gender nonconforming community. I think a lot of how we experience not only our own gender but other people's genders is through how we choose to express ourselves visually, and not so much obviously by the genitals we were born with or the assignment we have at birth. And so we do spend a lot of time and intention placed on our appearance. And I think obviously, people can choose to opt into that or opt out of that, but, we all do live, at least, in the United States, we all do live within the same society with a lot of the same pressures. And so, unfortunately, I think we have to kind of work within the system that we live in, and we don't always get the choice whether to opt in or opt out of the overall realities of aesthetics, I think. In that said, I do want to quickly acknowledge my privilege, access to resources, the safety and the community that I have here in New York City. I am white, I am educated, I am a professional here in the city, so I do have a lot of privileges that I do need to acknowledge prior to talking about this topic. But hopefully, regardless of your background, your socioeconomic status, your race, your gender, you can hopefully be a part of this conversation on my channel to talk about the issues with sort of optics and aging within our culture. So that out of the way, I wanted to talk about, so my age, I'm 31 years old. It's like admitting something bad, right? Yeah, I'm 31 years old, and I am well aware, for a lot of people possibly watching this channel, that is not old whatsoever, and I do not necessarily feel like I am old, but I will say that when I was going through my sort of gender exploration phase of deciding whether or not I was going to socially transition and come out with pronouns and name, I think that I put out of my mind the idea that age is a thing that is commonly felt amongst women in our culture. I knew it intellectually, but emotionally I didn't realize how hard it was going to hit me, that I was finally transitioning into sort of the role, the aesthetic, whatever you want to call it, the body that I've always wanted to be in. But at the same time, I was doing it and walking into what is considered sort of over the hill, at least when it comes to how women are perceived within our culture. There's a lot of people who are in their late teens and early 20s who are feminine, whether cis or trans, women who are sort of sometimes seen as the most ideal version of themselves because of their youth. And I think that, people who are 30, again, cis or trans, I think, unfortunately, there's this, and I think it's changing, but I think there's this feeling of you're no longer, you're not needed any longer, you know, like there's hotter, sexier, younger versions of you in the world, and you know, again, cis or trans, and you know, move over because they're coming up, and you know, I think it's interesting, and I'm happy that it's changing, but it's interesting to feel like I'm both experiencing that sentiment, but at the same time also going through a second adolescence and also like wanting to explore my gender expression still and wanting to wear dresses or be ultra femme to help communicate my gender. So, I mean, you know, you think about like a child who's going through a Disney princess phase when they're, you know, a young child, that's not something that I ever really experienced or got to play with. And so I'm sort of living out the adult version of that, but at the same time, you know, I'm 31 years old, so it's like I'm trying to find as best as possible ways to balance those two things, acknowledge and sort of jump in, you know, feet first into enjoying the freedom that I now have as someone who is being as authentically themselves as possible. You know, having to acknowledge the social pressures placed on women, the social pressures placed on women who are of a certain age, and then sort of like, well, what does the future hold for me? You know, like having to reconcile all of that at one point, both a adolescence and a, you know, having to accept that I'm getting older is very hard to digest sometimes. So yeah, I think that I wanted to kind of put that out there. I know YouTube can be an extremely young platform for many trans and gender nonconforming people to share their experiences and their stories. But I'm hoping that, you know, there's more and more examples in media, as well as on YouTube, of trans women who are in their 30s, trans women who are in their 40s, trans women who are in their 50s and 60s. And I think similar to the way in which cis women have gained a lot more visibility in all of their different forms. I think trans women need to also have that space to be able to age but still feel like a valued member of society, to still feel desirable. I'm a single person living in New York. I want to go on dates. I want to explore my sexuality. I want to wear dresses. And obviously all these things are completely possible, and I know that I'm not you know, I'm not old by any means, but I just think it's interesting, and I wanted to start the conversation on my channel if anyone wants to chime in about how they deal with the idea of aging in their, you know, the gender they feel they are, not only as a youth, but, you know, imagining themselves well into the future, and, you know, when attention goes away, when relationships get trickier, you know, when the dating pool is slightly smaller, and when the social pressures that I think cis women have dealt with gracefully over the last couple of decades, when those pressures are felt by our community now that we've gained more visibility and success in society, how do we react to those, respond to those, and continue to make sure that our voices are being heard and there's diversity in the experiences that are being seen in media. So yeah, I think looking at my notes, that was kind of where I wanted to go with this video. I have other things that I could probably share, but I didn't want to make it too long of a video. I just wanted to put it out there and see, you know, what kind of responses others may have. I'm interested to have more of this conversation in addition to conversations about gender, because I think you know, in our society, it can be just as relevant to the trans experience as transition itself is. Okay, well, I guess that is enough for this video. Again, if you have anything you would like to leave in the comments related to the topic of aging while trans, please feel free to do so. And also, again, if you can like this video and subscribe to this channel, I would be very grateful for that. And excited to have you here as part of the conversation. And I've also linked below my Instagram channel, which is a place that I plan to share a lookbook, a trans feminine lookbook. And I also have put those images on my Pinterest channel for you to have a look. Okay, well that is it. Thank you so much. Bye.